Hey, check it out, it's Jan, 1/3 of MediaShinobi. I'm gonna be reviewing The Legend of Korra Book 4, Episode 7, entitled The Reunion. And before I begin, I would like to take this opportunity once again to mention any and all things I thought were interesting enough to mention. Yo man, I'm gonna keep it 100. Man to man, Prince Wu, you can't keep taking the shotgun approach to hit on every damn girl you see. First of all, I caught you slipping hitting on my girl Asami, but now you have the audacity to hit on Korra? Boy, you better slow your roll and you better check yourself before you wreck yourself, fool. I am so sorry. I do not know where that came from. I promise I will never do that again. Anyway, staying on topic with Prince Wu, it seems that Mako and Bolin's grandmother finally found a way to fill the void in her heart with Prince Wu. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily an upgrade for her, but, you know, so long as she's happy, that's all that matters. As for Varric and Bolin, they definitely should hang around each other a lot more because they are hilarious together. Their chemistry just works, it flows, it's natural, it's organic, and yeah, it's just really funny. Now to actually get into the review itself, I really thought this episode was extremely good. Arguably their best episode thus far in my personal opinion, and yes, this beats Korra Alone and Battle of Zhaofu. With Korra Alone, I get that it was supposed to be an emotionally heavy episode, which it was. But due to the structure of the episode, which was a series of flashbacks / highlights of Korra during the last 2.5 years, it didn't really do much for me as much as I wanted it to. In fact, I would have preferred a more gradual build, maybe perhaps a span of a couple of more episodes to really emphasize what it's like to go through all that stuff. And as for the Battle of Zhaofu, like I said, most obvious episode to come out thus far, and that's the only real reason why I didn't really care for that episode as much, because everything I expected to happen, well, happened, and because of that, I kind of just watched it and I was like, oh, alright, moving on. Even the battle between Korra and Kuvira didn't really do much for me. Although, I will take this opportunity to make a public service announcement. Basically, I feel like a lot of people are unnecessarily hard on Korra. Now, granted, yes, she's not exactly my favorite character. In fact, she kind of frustrates me every once in a while. But, it makes sense why Korra was only able to do what she was able to do in that episode. One, Korra hasn't been in a real fight in 3 years, so it was expected that she was going to be rusty when she decided to fight Kuvira. And two, Korra isn't exactly stable right now. She's still fighting her inner demons. Yes, she got the metal out of her body and she now could go into the avatar state. Big whoop. She can't help other people if she can't even help herself. And that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on that matter. I just felt like it was getting ridiculous at this point and I had to voice my opinion. Another thing to note that I really liked about this episode was the brief altercation between Asami and Korra. It wasn't overly saturated nor premature. It was done just the right amount, and it was actually just bound to happen. You know, Korra and Asami are in a very similar situation right now. They're both in a very delicate point of their life. Asami has to deal with her father, and Korra had to deal with taking a backseat for the last 3 years. So I expected that to happen in some sense. I didn't know exactly how the conversation was going to go, but based on how that went, I kind of had to lean towards Asami on whose side I would take. When you are in a situation where someone is opening up to you, all you have to do is listen. You don't need to criticize them, you don't need to question them. Because if you do either of those two, their walls are automatically going to show up and they're not only going to defend themselves, but actually retaliate. And that's what happened. Asami retaliated by taking shots at Korra, saying that, well, you disappeared for 3 years, so you have no right to question my assessment of how I would deal with the situation. I'm not saying Korra intentionally did that. No. She just didn't know any better. And granted, that's the type of character Korra is. And, you know, the flip side can be said that Korra was in the right and Asami just was being overly defensive. Yes. You know, it's just basically how you see things. We also get to see what Kuvira has been doing on the down low for the last 3 years, which basically was purging anyone who wasn't born and raised within the Earth Empire. And honestly, that doesn't really surprise me because that's something I've called way before the book even began. And that's just because Kuvira seems like the type of person who would do something like that. Like I said a long time ago, Kuvira came off as a separationist. And we kind of already saw that, you know, a couple of episodes back. she basically announced the Earth Empire is now independent from international affairs, and anyone who gets involved in their affairs will feel the wrath of the Earth Empire. Not only is this now happening, we might even see this transition with the spirits. Now, basically what's happening with the spirits, at least the spirit vines, is that they're being used as a fuel source for this super weapon or this death machine, whatever. But if I were to, throw out what I think is going to happen, is they're going to go even further than that. They're going to even use spirits themselves. Now, I don't know if that's enough for everyone else to get involved, and by everyone else, I mean the other nations. But if I were to continue along on this idea that I have in mind, not only are they going to use the spirit vines and the spirits themselves to fuel this super weapon, they're going to use that super weapon on Republic City. Now, granted, I'm not the first one to think of that. Everyone has been thinking about maybe Kuvira might be ballsy enough to take Republic City back, because that originally was Earth Kingdom territory until, eventually it became kind of like a mecha city for coexistence between all four nations, and now spirits by definition. So if Republic City is attacked, then that's a perfect opportunity for all the other nations to now intervene, because now you're messing with international affairs, and I think that's how the other nations will now be involved. Of course, let's not forget Toph is going to return. That's to be expected. The swamp is basically her home, and Kuvira's army is about to invade it. So I'm definitely going to look forward to that, and that pretty much wraps up this review. So what do you guys think? Like I said, this is by far my favorite episode thus far in this book. If you guys like the video, like it. If you guys dislike it, it's completely understandable. No hard feelings. Comment down in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you guys would think about as of right now. Your theories, what you guys thought about mine. I'm also open to constructive criticism, so don't forget about that as well. Consider subscribing. We try to pump out this content as much as we can. And before I leave, I would just like to say, like I said, halfway through November, as you can see, I haven't shaved yet. No shave November. I'm going to have fun with it. But I apologize if I look a little unpresentable, but I'm having fun. So this is Jan, 1/3 of MediaShinobi, signing out, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.